Hello, everybody. You're listening to AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. That's me. Thank you for joining me today, making me a small part of your day. You know that I appreciate you. I've got to say, it's been an eventful weekend. And if you were able to catch either the NBA Finals or the Stanley Cup Finals, then you know which of those two things is more interesting than the other. Okay, and it's the thing that we want to talk the least about usually in this town is hockey. But man, Stanley Cup Finals have been way more interesting than the NBA Finals. But I'll get into that in a little bit. I'd like to talk to you about the platforms. Where can you reach us? Where can we reach you? This is AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, and you can reach us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube by searching that. You can also reach us online at hotnewstalkradio.com. You can stream our shows, this show, Clutch with Keon Rose from 6 to 7, but you can also stream all of our programming. We feature Sean Hannity and The Herd with Colin Cowherd, Best Shot with Russell Stroud. So you've got a lot of options there. Okay, the Home Realty Hour with Ben and Sabrina, which I highly recommend. Tons of options. Okay, Entrepreneur Source with Bruce Krebs. So you've got things to listen to. You can also check out our classic episodes on YouTube. We never call them olds. We stream all of this stuff. And we've got a webcam so you can see what it is that we even look like. TuneIn Radio app. Search it in your favorite app store on your Apple or Google device, your Android device. Or I think they actually have it for the Windows Phone too, if that's what floats your boat. I don't know why, but you could, if you felt so inclined, do that way as well. You could check that out there. Search Hot News Talk Radio in the app. Give us a favorite and press play, and you'll have Hot News Talk Radio everywhere you go. So I want to introduce a new segment called 5 Point Line because there's lots of stuff to talk about in the weekend, and I don't think that there's any particularly any one concise way to cover it all. So I just picked the 5 best / most interesting things from the weekend. And, we talk about that. So we'll start with point number 5 and work our way down to number 1. Does that sound good? Good. All right. Point number 5. And I think that everybody could have seen this coming. The Cleveland Cavaliers look completely outgunned in every fashion and, quite frankly, in every sense of the word. And we haven't had a good Steph and Clay game yet because Steph Curry decided that he was going to try and be the world's greatest defender and picked up the stupidest fouls imaginable. So he didn't play for very long. But in the little time that he did play, he did a ton of damage. Him and Clay. Clay didn't have a breakout game, but Clay scored very well and, quite frankly, very easily. They just didn't need him going into the fourth quarter of that game. The game was getting out of hand mid-third quarter, and then it was completely out of hand by the end of the third. And then at that point, people wearing Golden State blue or Golden State white were playing that I had not ever seen before. Okay, like I was seeing guys wearing numbers and going, who on earth is that guy? Okay, they just went so deep into the bench to not blow the Cavs out even more than they were already blowing them out. And it didn't really make a difference. Those guys could shoot threes too, apparently. And what we had was a good old-fashioned butt whooping, but the kind of butt whooping that's not great in a best-of-7 series when it starts to become more and more readily apparent that the Cleveland Cavaliers have absolutely zero answers for what it is that Golden State's doing. None. They're not good enough defensively. I mean, Kevin Love had a concussion last game. After being hit in the head by Harrison Barnes, accidental elbow to the back of the head. And he may be clear to play on Wednesday, and it's not going to matter. It didn't matter before. It's not like Kevin Love was doing anything previous to the tap on the head, but he left the game, and you didn't notice he was gone. Kyrie Irving is horrible defensively, and he continues to be horrible defensively. It's not news. It's not anything that we didn't know already, but it's so bad. It has to be a talking point coming up in this series, and you've just got to feel bad for LeBron James, who is back in the NBA Finals and going like, this cannot be happening to me again, I have dragged a team here that is completely worthless. And if we don't start to see some next level LeBron James stuff, Cleveland is going to be gone. And we started to see it a little bit. It was too little too late in the second half. LeBron James started to go full steamroller to the basket. LeBron's been on record as saying that he's not taking over games because he doesn't have to. That's not how Cleveland got to this point. So why should he start? He should start now. He should start now because he can't consistently get anything from anybody on that team, save for Richard Jefferson. And when Richard Jefferson is the second best player on your team's not good, and it's not going to beat the Warriors. Okay, and then you're looking at the Warriors, and the Warriors have gone through, they went through the Rockets, and that wasn't a great series. The Rockets managed to accidentally fall on a couple of games without Steph in the lineup, but the Portland series was surprisingly good. It was only 5 games, but those were contested, close 5 games. Portland plays with a style similar to Golden State's own, and they could keep up with tempo. The Thunder could too because Westbrook and Durant. And then on top of that, you add the athleticism and the length that team has on the defensive side of the ball. You could really bother Golden State. Cleveland doesn't have any of that. They, outside of LeBron, really, they don't have competent length that can score and defend. They just don't have that. You've got Dellavedova, who can defend but cannot score, and you cannot play him at the same time as Kyrie Irving, who can score but cannot defend. You've got Tristan Thompson, who can defend and will score off of rebounds, won't be able to really make his own shot, but you can throw him lobs and stuff. Or Kevin Love, who can score, shoot threes, shoot mid-range jumpers, post up, but cannot defend. Like, this is a gigantic problem. They say that styles make fights. Yeah, this ain't a good fight because these styles match up terribly. Absolutely terribly. This is not a great matchup for any of the involved parties. I mean, unless you're Golden State, and then you're just enjoying what it is that's happening here in front of you. We need that Boston Celtics 61-point game LeBron James. I've been calling for it for a while, and I don't know what it is that Cleveland saw in Golden State that made them think that they didn't need a next-level performance from one of their 3 superstars. And I'm just calling out LeBron because he's the only guy I think that can really turn it on whenever he wants. LeBron doesn't just get hot. He can really turn that on whenever he wants to. He just has to want to. But he also understands that if he does that, he's taking everybody else out of the game. But I don't know if LeBron's noticed, and maybe he has by now. There isn't anybody else in the game. It's you and Richard Jefferson. And Richard Jefferson, for all the solid things that he's actually been doing in this playoff series, he can't jump anymore. Dude's old. There is nothing left for that guy. All right, so there you go. Point number 4. Let's jump on to point number 4 because it has to deal with Steph Curry and the Rio Olympics. The Rio Olympics that I continually mention over and over again that we should not be having because Brazil's infrastructure is a mess. Their government is a mess. A lot of these ways for Olympic visitors to travel have not been completely built yet. We still have Pooh River that athletes aren't going to be participating in. I don't know what the plan around that was, but that's still a thing. And we also have Zika virus, in case you haven't missed that one there, in case you've been living under a rock and didn't know that there was this virus called Zika virus that's been going around, and that pregnant women should probably stay out of Brazil. And if your wife is pregnant, you should probably stay out of Brazil. Also, the effects that it has on unborn children are pretty catastrophic. Okay, so there's that. I think we should just not have the Olympics. But Steph's not going to the Olympics, and he's citing the soreness in his knees and in his ankles as a reason to not go, which is a very, very good reason to not go. And Steph Curry plays the one position in the NBA that we have like a million of. So it's all right. If we don't have Steph, we'll just send Mike Conley or John Wall or somebody, and we'll do all right. You know what I mean? Like, we need one of those forwards to go. We need like Durant to go, and Durant said that he is going. We need Paul George to go. Paul George says he is going. And then you send one of the billion guards that we have over here. I don't know, Damian Lillard, John Wall, somebody, just anybody else. It's okay. We're overloaded at the guard position in the National Basketball Association. I don't think we're really going to miss Steph Curry. Not a ton, not on the Olympic squad where, you know, everybody can shoot. I mean, yeah, we're good. Okay. It's the USA. We're pretty stacked. Okay. Once the forwards start dropping out, you know, once there's no George, once there's no Durant, you know, if LeBron decides not to go, that's when I start to sweat bullets because those are harder to find. And that's our main advantage over all of these international squads is that our forwards, our threes and our fours do things that theirs can't do. So we've got that going for us, which is pretty nice. Point number 3, I'm going to spend a little bit of time on this one, which is that the San Jose Sharks get back into the Stanley Cup Finals. They're only down 2-1 in the series instead of going down 3-0 to the Pittsburgh Penguins, who are a very great offensive hockey team. And when it comes to being playoff ready, that this team is always ready to go. And Sidney Crosby's been playing absolutely unbelievably. So it's good to see the Sharks get into the series and, you know, with an opportunity to even this one up tonight, you know, and more impressed with the hockey situation than the basketball situation there. Granted that the way that the Warriors are beating the Cavs, it's absolutely gorgeous to watch the way they move the ball around and swing it back and forth. I mean, those guys are making this thing look artistic. It's just, you know. Point number 2, Tennessee beats Georgia 21-10 in the All-Star Football Classic. So we have that. The bragging rights come back this way to Tennessee. And point number 1, which I will spend some time on, and then we'll probably go to break, and then I'll continue to spend some time on it because there is a lot of ground to cover there, which is that the great Muhammad Ali passed away this weekend at the age of 74. They'll be streaming, actually. They'll be streaming his funeral on June 10th. You can watch that online. I'm going to try and find a way to watch that. Just part of me does and part of me doesn't. Because I don't want to watch it just because, it's the thing to do. I really have a soft spot in my heart for Muhammad Ali, which now I will get into all of that now. Right, because here's the thing. I will preface all of this by saying, and you're listening to AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio Clutch with Keon Rose. That was the 5-point line. We just made all 5 points from it. What if they introduced a 5-point line in the NBA? That would be so bizarre. And I'm the guy that's opposed to the 4-point line. Like, I would rather just get rid of the 3 than add a 4. That doesn't make any sense to me. But anyway, I digress. I'm going to start talking about Muhammad Ali by talking about, first of all of the flack that young guys get on the radio. And I am a young guy on the radio, so it does kind of come with the territory of people tend not to like to listen to us because, A, we have this horrible way of sounding like know-it-alls. Like we just know everything. And we don't, because we're young. Because we haven't really lived in a large way. So we don't have the life experiences that, you know, the more experienced hosts would have. And even you listeners out there who are older have more life experiences than I do. And therefore, when I start to relate things to real life, I'm a step behind you guys. I'm multiple steps behind some of you. And that's fine. It's fine. I don't enjoy the fact that gets held against me. Like, I'm sorry that I was born in 1990. I apologize profusely. Let me go ahead and move that birth date back on to the 70s. Like, I can't do that. And so having that held against me, I don't really understand that. But we catch a lot of flack for acting like know-it-alls. That I can help. Okay. I try and draw my life experiences from other people to make up for the fact that I don't have, 40 years of experience covering sports. I talk to other people who've covered sports. I talk to other people who haven't covered sports in a variety of different places who make music and make art and work blue collar jobs and are teachers. You try and cover that wealth of knowledge that you don't have by talking to other people, by reading books from people who have lived life and try and understand them in that way. So when it comes to talking about athletes, especially when you get to the end of an athlete's life or the end of an athlete's career, when you end up talking about athletes whom you have not seen because, you just weren't alive then, and the most that you've got to go on are YouTube clips and whatever pictures you find on the internet. And I'm a guy, I try and be a sports historian. Like, I try and understand the history of the games because I think that provides the context for understanding the games today. Talking about Muhammad Ali is kind of like leveling the playing field here. Some guys on the radio are capable of talking about Muhammad Ali because they watched him fight and they remember vividly watching him fight, and they're old enough to have done so and to have understood in at least some way the context for which Muhammad Ali and his fighting career took place. But there's a lot of people who are, in their 30s, in their 40s, who were alive when Ali was fighting, but were much too young possibly to understand the scale and scope of this. And in this way, it's kind of a level playing field because I am now in the same boat as everybody else, that we all know the greatness of Ali, but mostly because we all heard of the greatness of Ali. And we've all seen the highlights, and we've all seen, the big fights, the Rumble in the Jungle and the Thrill in Manila. We all saw the highlights and the talk around these things, but all of the stuff that we mostly know about Muhammad Ali as hosts, not necessarily fans, because there are some people listening to the radio right now that know about Muhammad Ali in a much greater capacity. So when you talk about Muhammad Ali, we end up talking about Muhammad Ali in a way that is retrospective and a way that we deal with all people when they pass away and we lose them, is we immediately start to remember them in a different fashion than the way that they were. And Chris Myers, who works for Fox Sports Radio, had a tweet this weekend that was basically the epitome of that. And I tweeted about it a little bit this weekend and got into a back and forth with some very smart people about it. But basically, Chris Myers was talking about how Muhammad Ali was a guy that transcended race and transcended religion and was known as a gentle guy. And if you're going to be honest about the life and times and legacy of Muhammad Ali and be fair to what Muhammad Ali did outside of the boxing ring, which is more important than what he did in it, and he did a lot of important things in it. If you're going to be fair to his legacy, you have to acknowledge that Muhammad Ali was not at all about transcending race and transcending religion. Okay. Muhammad Ali was very, very much in your face about these things. And again, I'm not qualified necessarily to speak from this, but I speak secondhand that a very huge fan of Muhammad Ali was my father. My father passed away when I was 17 in high school, but talked all the time about Muhammad Ali to the point where I became a gigantic Muhammad Ali fan. I tried to search everything about the man that I could. I've got a picture of Muhammad Ali on my wall. And in that picture is also, just in the background of the picture, Malcolm X. You can see Malcolm X back there. Muhammad Ali was not about transcending race because Muhammad Ali was trying to grab your head and force you to look at the picture. He wanted you to see race and wanted you to see in what way it was affecting us and how unfair it truly was. And Muhammad Ali, because of his beliefs, refused to go to Vietnam. And if Muhammad Ali would have gone to Vietnam, and I think Andy Pollin over at ESPN 980 in Washington, D.C., might have to find a way to listen to that show. They podcast it. But he does a very good job of talking about Muhammad Ali would not have ever lost any years in his career if he had just gone to Vietnam. It would have been a hang out with the troops kind of thing and then come back home and keep fighting. Muhammad Ali was so against the war in Vietnam, he didn't go. And as a result, Muhammad Ali went to prison and lost 3 years of his career. That would have been his prime. That would have been his prime. Came back. He fought in fights after, but he was not the same after those fights and after that prison stint that he took for standing up for what he believed in. You know, being sent over to fight in Vietnam, Muhammad Ali did not believe in it, and quite frankly said, no Viet Cong ever called me an N-word. And that is something that a guy trying to transcend race would not do. We'll talk a little bit more about this on the other side, Muhammad Ali retrospective, on Clutch with Keon Rose.
I'm blowing everything up. We're starting over. I'm doing a new show. I want guys who push it to the middle of the table and go over the top. Take a risk, fail miserably. I'm right, and I'm not wrong, and I'll never back down. Conflict works. Allow it.
It's The Herd with Colin Cowherd. Right here and everywhere. Noon Eastern.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds. We'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240. You and I know that real men are prepared for anything. You know what I'm talking about because you're a Take Charge guy. Everyone's talking about Grimm's Tactical, featuring first responder gear, survival gear and equipment, Voodoo Tactical, Leapers. For personal protection, Grimm's Tactical features non-lethal personal protection gear, AR/AK parts, knives, canning and dehydrating equipment. If you hike and camp, Grimm's Tactical has got what you're looking for. Bags and packs. And for your side piece, concealed carry holsters for men and women. Plus, Grimm's Tactical carries a wide variety of freeze-dried food. Wise Mountain House, Backpacker's Pantry, Grimm's Tactical, where law enforcement shops, Safari Lane, Blackhawk, 511. First responder gear at Grimm's Tactical. Grimm's Tactical, 8115 East Brainerd Road, in the shopping center next to the Walmart Marketplace. Look for the Mighty Mini U-Haul office. Grimm's Tactical is right next door. Grimm's Tactical, 8115 East Brainerd Road. Finding just the right place to live can be a daunting task. Stop your search. In Chattanooga, the place to live is Cross Creek Villas for under $1,000 and available for immediate move-in. You can enjoy this 2-bedroom split layout, over 1,000 square feet, 9-foot ceilings, an extra-large patio or balcony. And don't forget to ask about their preferred employer program. Cross Creek Villas is a gated community, offering a 24-hour fitness facility, a beautiful pool and hot tub, and Cross Creek Villas is pet-friendly. Stroll the pet park with your best friend and enjoy the free use of their business center and clubhouse. Plus, if you mention you heard this on the radio, your application fee is free. Cross Creek Villas, close to downtown off of Highway 58. Go to crosscreekchattanooga.com. That's crosscreekchattanooga.com or call 894-0446. That's 894-0446. Redefine the way you live at Cross Creek Villas. Go to crosscreekchattanooga.com or call 894-0446. Cross Creek Villas.
Becoming fair out there through the nighttime hours, overnight lows into the lower 60s. Now for Tuesday, lots of sunshine returns, becoming breezy, highs 85 to 87. Cooler tomorrow night, though, under clear skies, lows upper 50s. Sunny and pleasant Wednesday, highs lower 80s. For lunch or dinner, come to Guthrie's, home of the original golden fried delicious chicken finger with their special world-famous sauce. Open daily, locations in Trenton, Signal Mountain, and Ringgold. Go get Guthrie's. It's always good. And I'm Sporting 12's Chief Meteorologist Patrick Core.
On AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds. We'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240. AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio with your Hot News Now update. In the Billy Hawk murder trial, Harold Sosby says the state offered him complete immunity if he would testify against Billy Hawk, no matter what level of crime Mr. Sosby had committed. During the trial, a Chattanooga police former officer, Terry Slaughter, admitted to drug involvement with Hawk. He said the suspect told him that he was set up by Max Salyer, the murder victim, and wanted to get rid of him. The TVA's Watts Bar Nuclear Unit 2 is up and running, generating electricity onto its power grid for the first time on Friday. A 16-year-old boy had to be rescued from the Pocket Wilderness in Soddy Daisy after he suffered a knee injury. Multiple fire units were called to assist him, and he was taken to Erlanger Medical Center for treatment. He's expected to be okay. Multiple roads are going to be closed downtown due to river banding until June the 20th, including Riverfront Parkway between Chestnut and Aquarium Way, Power Alley and Molly Lane, and the Veterans Bridge off-ramp, among others. It's going on in the Tennessee Valley. It's going on Hot News Talk Radio. Hot News Talk 1240.
You're listening to AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose, and we've been talking about Muhammad Ali, but I want to get on one point here that was missed in the shuffle of the weekend. The Denver Broncos in Washington, D.C. right now for, to see the president, as championship teams are ought to do. Here's an interesting thing, though, right? Somewhere between this weekend and today, Denver Broncos defensive back Aqib Talib has allegedly shot himself in the leg. So he will not be seeing the president today because he has just been released from the hospital as of a few hours ago after shooting himself, after being shot in the leg. Allegedly he was shot in the leg, but that the rumors are that he shot himself. So people are working to uncover the story because it is an accidental gunshot wounds, and one of the more hilarious stories in sports is how Plexico Burress once shot himself in the leg in a nightclub of all places. And so we'll see how that story particularly unfolds, but will they actually suspend Aqib Talib? Will the NFL suspend Aqib Talib, and for how long? Because there's nothing that makes their stance on Tom Brady and Deflategate more ridiculous than Aqib Talib or anybody, right? Because what you're saying is you're putting a value on the deflation of a football. The NFL wants Tom Brady suspended for 4 games. So they're putting a value on the deflation of a football. If you suspend Aqib Talib for 8 games, let's say, for shooting himself in the leg, you're saying that is 2 times as bad as deflating a football. Which is silly because the fact of the matter is, if you're capable of getting shot in the leg in any kind of situation in which the guns you're with are not legal guns and all of that jazz, you're in a position where you're getting shot in the leg, there's no way where that's 2 times worse than deflating a football. The only thing that's 2 times worse than deflating a football is deflating 2 footballs. I mean, that's not, there's the 2 times worse thing doesn't work there. But then there's also another situation where you could suspend Aqib Talib for the same amount of time, if not less time. Suspend him for the same amount of time, if not less time, thus saying that deflating a football is worse than the reckless endangerment of other people with your gun. If your gun is capable of shooting you in the leg, if it was ever in that position, then it was in a position where it could hurt others. So you're just being reckless with a gun. And there's no way that that's in the same league ever at all with deflating a football. I don't care what context. I don't care if it's cheating. I don't care. You're saying what you say with the suspension is a value judgment of what you have to say about other punishments that you deal out. Like Greg Hardy did not get suspended enough games if deflating a football is worth 4. And it just starts to look more ridiculous when things like this happen. You know, if someone gets caught with domestic abuse, if someone gets caught shooting themselves or shooting others or anything like that, all of those things start to look particularly ridiculous in light of the fact that the NFL thinks that Tom Brady needs to be suspended 4 games for what? For deflating a football. And not even deflating it himself, for being involved in the deflation of a football. Okay. All right, NFL. Sure. You're listening to AM 1240 on News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. Muhammad Ali, the greatest boxer of all time. Not in terms of just, pure ability inside the boxing ring. Because despite the fact that Ali was one of the greatest boxers of all time, certainly there were comparable fighters in his time period when you look at Joe Frazier and George Foreman. Okay, like those 2 guys, George Foreman was a murderer and probably if you want to really be real about it, a kind of Mike Tyson prototype in terms of just punching power. Dude had it in spades. You could have had a more favorite boxer in that era. But I'll tell you what, though, Muhammad Ali is one of the meanest boxers that ever lived. In fact, Muhammad Ali might be one of the meanest people that ever lived. And while that sort of turn of phrase that he had and the ability to be verbose and use his words really aided him when it came to defending his causes, when it came to defending the Nation of Islam, when it came to defending blacks, when it came to being against the war in Vietnam, all of those things, all of his ability to use words, I mean, those things came into play then. And when it came to selling fights, nobody could sell a fight quite like Muhammad Ali. But the Thrilla in Manila, which Ali called Joe Frazier a gorilla. He said, "I'm going to beat that gorilla in Manila." He had a gorilla that he would punch the gorilla. And, you know, that's cruel stuff, man, especially when you consider the racial undertones there of calling somebody a gorilla. And no, it does not make it okay or better that Ali was also black. That was wrong. It was completely messed up. And it was one of the more cruel things in Ali's life. But you don't want to whitewash or cover over the more negative things about Muhammad Ali just because he was great and brilliant. Because he was those things too. But he also had a side of him that was very cruel, especially in the case with Joe Frazier, because as it has been pointed out multiple times today, Joe Frazier didn't have the same wittiness. He wasn't as snappy as Muhammad Ali. And when it came to winning the war of words, yeah, Joe Frazier was definitely going to lose the war of words with Muhammad Ali. Most people would, but Joe Frazier really didn't stand a chance there. And it made him upset to the point where Joe Frazier saw Muhammad Ali carrying the Olympic flame down in Atlanta, actually, and said he hoped that Muhammad Ali would fall into the flames. There's still a resentment there. That's how good Muhammad Ali was at getting underneath your skin. And look, it serves him well as a fighter because it does two things. It sells the fight really well, but then it also acts as this psychological component. You're not just playing your opponent physically. You're not just boxing him. You're mentally trying to outmaneuver him. And if you can get inside of his mind before you even throw a punch, you can win. You take any edge that you possibly can. And I don't think that there's anything necessarily wrong with trying to do so. But the way in which Ali did that was so cruel. And the only reason why we remember it well is because Muhammad Ali was ultimately a winner, which goes into how we see a lot of these things. Winning tends to cover up and fix everything, especially as time goes on. We have a huge problem with Cam Newton's attitude and behavior. And I don't know that you would even have Cam Newton's attitude and behavior, at least not openly, without a Muhammad Ali. Without a Muhammad Ali just saying the most arrogant things. I mean, it was arrogance, and we don't like that, okay? And we don't like it. We see it in Floyd Mayweather because it's not just team sports. It doesn't help that it's team sports, by the way. Cam Newton is one example where, like, okay, it's not about you, dude. There's 10 other guys out on the field with you at any given time wearing your colors. But it's not just team sports. We don't like it when we see it in Floyd Mayweather. And yes, you might say to yourself, but isn't Floyd Mayweather a wife beater? Yes, he is. And that's a plenty of good reason not to like him. But whenever I hear people talk about Floyd Mayweather and talk about not liking Floyd Mayweather, the fact that he allegedly hit his wife or girlfriend in front of their kid multiple times, that does not come up as the reason why people do not like Floyd Mayweather. Floyd's cockiness and his arrogance and the fact that he walks around with a briefcase full of money everywhere that he goes, that is why people don't like Floyd Mayweather. Listen to anybody talk about Floyd. nobody ever talks about Floyd and his treatment of women. And Floyd and the fact that when there were female journalists that were critical of Floyd Mayweather before the Mayweather-Pacquiao fight, Floyd Mayweather wanted to ban all of the women that were protesting him or that were critical of him in the journalism field. People who had every right to interview him as their male counterparts. Floyd wanted to ban all of those people from coming because they'd rain on his gigantic Mayweather-Pacquiao fight finally happening. But that's not ever cited as a reason for anybody to hate Floyd Mayweather. We just think he's cocky. And he is. And if you don't like him for that, well, then that's fine. But the more important issue here is that's not the main reason to dislike Floyd Mayweather. But if you're going to dislike Floyd Mayweather's mouth, what makes you think you were going to like Ali's? Like the time machine. Let's get Muhammad Ali in a time machine. Let's get him in a TARDIS. Let's bring him from 1960 to 2016. You really think we've got that much love for Muhammad Ali now? No, we don't. We want everybody to be Russell Wilson. Muhammad Ali's personality came at the right time when TV was a growing medium and you could finally see the fighters and see what they were like. And Muhammad Ali had a charisma and a personality that took over the screen in a way that many other guys did not have and would not have. And you see a lot of guys, even in the UFC with mixed martial arts, just imitation, right? Like a shadow or a ghost of Ali when it comes to talking trash to sell fights or talking trash to get in their opponent's mind. All right. I mean, you see Chael Sonnen when he had his run there in the UFC, Conor McGregor, who's going to be fighting in UFC 202, I believe. You see these guys and the way that they talk and the way that they're abrasive and brash, and it still pales in comparison to what it was that Ali was able to do, which is to also be somehow a poet at the same time. But don't for a minute get it twisted. What Ali did in a lot of cases was very, very, very mean. And if you heard somebody say stuff like that in 2016, you wouldn't appreciate it. We don't like our athletes to be political either. And Muhammad Ali was certainly political. He took a lot of political stances. A lot. And we don't like that. We want our athletes to talk sports. We want them to talk about the games. We don't want them to talk about anything of substance, really. We like our athletes silent or humble. Everybody's got to be Russell Wilson. You know that there's a more braggadocious side to Steph Curry. He never says all of that stuff into a microphone, but just a little bit that we do see, people don't like. Like, people don't like the way that Steph chews on his mouth guard. It's cocky. So what? And if that's the thing you have a problem with, again, I'm not here to tell you your opinions are wrong, but you don't get to be the same person to turn around and start eulogizing Muhammad Ali, because he was that guy before that guy. The Muhammad Ali was the guy that had the swagger. And if you have a problem with Cam Newton, right? If you have a problem with Michael Jordan, if you have a problem with name any NFL wide receiver that tells you on Sunday before they play you, they're going to beat you, and then they beat you. If you've got a problem with all of that, you weren't going to like Muhammad Ali. You put you in a time machine and take you back, you weren't going to like that guy. I promise. You're listening to AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio. Clutch with Keon Rose. That's me. Thank you for joining me today. And making me a small slice of your day. You know that I appreciate you. Speaking of Muhammad Ali and eulogies, there's going to be a lot of eulogies written for Muhammad Ali. Certainly, people are looking forward to the one from Bill Clinton. That's right, Bill Clinton going to eulogize Muhammad Ali. But Muhammad Ali did something interesting. He wrote his own eulogy, which is something that I think, just short of attending your own funeral, I think is something that a lot of people want to do. Muhammad Ali wrote his own eulogy. And of course, it is A, the most Muhammad Ali thing that ever happened. And B, I don't think that anyone's going to write a better eulogy for the man. He wrote the best eulogy that could be written for him. And no one is going to write a better one. If I can get this up on the screen here so I can actually read it. Muhammad Ali, and we're talking about him because he passed away this weekend again, if somehow you have not heard the news. A, where have you been? And B, to me, this is something that's particularly not disturbing, but it does break me up a little bit, because Muhammad Ali is a guy that has influenced a good chunk of my life when it comes to learning about hard work and perseverance. My dad always pointed me towards athletes to emulate. And he did so in large part because those are life lessons that are particularly easy to learn. They're very easily illustratable. You want to teach someone about hard work, show them Peyton Manning. Peyton, notoriously hard worker, and it paid off. It paid off in huge dividends in the end. I learned this because my dad would always tell me about Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali had, great quotes about defeating what is seen oftentimes by other people as impossible. And not just impossible, but not actually achievable. And looking at those things and looking at those odds and going, you know what? I can surpass those. I can go beyond this. And there's a lot to take to heart from there, including, and because it got posted today actually on social media by Tom Brady, who, if anyone has ever taken that quote about impossible being nothing to heart more than Tom Brady, who was a 6th round draft pick, it would be Tom Brady. But anyway, here's the quote from Ali, who wrote it not as a eulogy really, but it was in his book, his 2013 autobiography, The Soul of a Butterfly: Reflections on a Life Journey. He wrote about how he would like to be remembered. And of course, it's the most perfect thing because it turns out to be just extremely fitting. He said, "I would like to be remembered as a man who won the heavyweight title 3 times, who was humorous, and who treated everyone right. As a man who never looked down on those who looked up to him, and who helped as many people as he could. As a man who stood up for his beliefs no matter what. As a man who tried to unite all humankind through faith and love. And if all that's too much, then I'd settle for being remembered only as a great boxer who became a leader and a champion of his people. And I wouldn't even mind if folks forgot how pretty I was." And that, first off, we're not going to forget. I think that Muhammad Ali did a great job of reminding us over and over and over again how pretty he was. So there's no way that we could ever forget that. But we're not going to forget any of those things either. We're going to remember what it was that Muhammad Ali did over the course of his life. Because while Muhammad Ali took up the cause of black people and took up the cause of the Nation of Islam, because he wanted people to see that there was more than just the violence. He wanted people to see into the good side of a group of people. You can't write off Muslims simply because of the violence that some Muslims perpetuate. In the same way that you can't write off Christians for the violence that some Christians perpetuate. You just can't do that. And he stood up for that. But it was not because he thought that Muslims were better or blacks were better or the Vietnamese were better, but because he was fighting for the equality, that we're all better for believing in each other. And I think that's hugely, hugely important, and something that we should not forget about his career, because there's not a whole lot of athletes, and you're not going to find a ton that do that. You're listening to AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, Butch with Keon Rose. Coming up to the end of the show here, but I want to talk about something really quick because it interests me as a person entering the media field and the journalism field myself, which is the story about Ariel Helwani, and I hope I am not butchering the poor man's name, who basically was banned for life from attending UFC events after reporting that Brock Lesnar was coming back from retirement to fight in UFC 200. Brock Lesnar coming back from retirement to fight in UFC 200. Ariel Helwani reported this, and he was correct, by the way. He didn't miss the story. He was correct, but he reported it, and the UFC was hoping to roll that story out in last night's UFC event, and he kind of spoiled their parade a little bit. And the UFC got upset about this and basically said, you cannot come back to cover these events. Ariel Helwani, by the way, is a fantastic journalist and is the Adrian Wojnarowski, the Adam Schefter of UFC reporting. He gets the scoops, he gets the stories before anybody else does. And I don't know, for years, like he's a must follow on Twitter if you're a fan of fighting at all, because he knows so much and he's an insider for sure. So he reported the story, and it seems really wrong that the UFC bans him for life for doing this, for just being a reporter. He banned a reporter for being a reporter. Like, what is it that you thought reporters were doing? Apparently, the UFC thought that reporters and writers were free promotion for them. That must have been what they thought, because I don't know what else it is that you think that these guys are out here doing when they're reporting stories on you. Like, it's not just going to be all fight analysis. Sometimes it's going to be what's coming up in the future. And if a reporter finds that out, they're going to report it. And we as fight fans want to know. And there's nothing wrong with that. The UFC is well within their rights to do this. They can do it. It just sends an awful message for journalism around that sport, that you could be blackballed for doing your job, unless we just want a sport filled with puff pieces, because it doesn't seem to bother any of the other sports. But they play, I guess, by the old rules. But it doesn't seem to bother the NFL when Adam Schefter tweets a draft pick before it happens, or tweets about a trade in the works before the trade happens. I mean, you try and keep that stuff under secret, but, guys have got their sources. They're going to cover the story, and they should be allowed to cover the story. You've been listening to Clutch with Keon Rose here on AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. Thank you for joining me today, making me just a small slice of your day. You know that I appreciate you. Remember, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. Stay clutch, and I'll see you in 24 hours. And our thoughts and prayers go out to the family of Muhammad Ali.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give